Welcome to the show, people. My name is Victor De La Casa, and with me, my good friend, Matthias Gelber. Matthias, say hi to the folks.
Hi guys, how are you today? Good to see you, sustainable folks out there.
Good to see you, Matthias. Always a pleasure. So it's 2021. 2021. A new year.
Oh, really? Already?
Yeah,
Wow.
already.
Man, time is moving fast.
We slept through Christmas. There you go.
Yes. Happy New Year! Wow.
Happy New Year, folks. Happy New Year. And this is gonna be our first show of the new year. Gonna be a big year. And we have a lot of ideas in mind. We're gonna deliver them within the year, of course. But today, this week, our first topic would be investment risk and climate change. Does that sound good to you, Matthias?
Yeah, sounds good to me, man. You can ask me a couple of tough questions on that one. Not sure whether I can answer them, but hey, bring it on.
Well, I'm sure you could. I'm sure you would be able to deliver good answers on this one. But before we start, why don't we discuss 2021, New Year? Do you have any New Year's resolution, my friend?
Shave more often than last year. So potentially it will not be growing as big as it was during the middle of the year when I had a beard.
I know.
Kind of this long.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone ever saw it on these shows because we started them after I shaved.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, 2021, I just want to focus on the opportunities that are out there. Our podcast here, our show, many other sustainability projects that I'm involved in. Maybe you guys have a great technology to share with us. Let's make this world a better place by working together on promoting and supporting sustainable technologies, sustainable lifestyle, sustainable finance, all those things that can shift the planet towards more healing rather than destruction.
In fact, that's one of our plans for this year, right? We will start featuring innovations, companies, technologies, mostly unknown, but there are actually solutions out there. They're just not being given any attention. There are solutions out there on sustainability. Even I'm not fully aware of all of them, but they're there. They're just not being given the media attention needed in order for these, technology solutions to be known, to be promulgated, to be promoted, right? So us here in our channel, and very, very soon we're gonna change the name. We're gonna shift things up, we're gonna level up things. This is an opportunity for us to feature these companies. There's so many of them out there, and you, my friend, you know a lot of them already. It's just now a matter of getting them together and giving them some voice, an outlet, a medium where they can talk and share what their solutions are, right?
Quick funny story on that. I was trying to put on this bow tie earlier on.
There you go.
But then, my shirt, maybe I've put on too much weight. It's kind of a little bit too tight to button it up here. When I tried to put it on, it doesn't look right with this open shirt. But just for you guys to see, this is a sustainable bow tie made from, there are two versions. One is from recycled materials, old pallets, these industrial pallets that people have thrown away, and you can repurpose them and turn them into nice materials. Another version is made from sustainably sourced wood that comes from a sustainable forest that's managed in a proper way, where there is some selective harvesting but replanting. And the forest will always be there for the animals, for the biodiversity. So these things exist out there. This is from my friend Harit, the green carpenter in Malaysia, and he has come up with loads of innovations like that, made from old wood that people have thrown away, or that's an industrial waste product like the pallets, and they clean them up. They basically shave off the dirty part and they turn it into beautiful products. I have another one here, actually. This wasn't planned, but I just realized it, where my water or my coffee is on. This as well was an industrial pallet, dirty, ugly, old, thrown away, and it's been turned into a beautiful coaster
Yes.
where you can
Yes.
put your stuff on. So products and technologies exist out there. So instead of buying next time a plastic coaster or a nylon bow tie, why
Mhm.
not get these products that are part of the circular economy, that are really sustainable, that are really helping the planet? And if we increase our purchase of those products, either as a consumer or business to business, we built it into our real estate projects, our factories. Instead of buying a normal motor that is
Mhm.
inefficient, maybe a little bit cheaper, we buy an efficient motor. Again, my friend from Malaysia, CK, he's got a product called Eco Moto. It uses the
Yeah.
latest maglev technology that can save 30-40% of electricity. So these things are out there. We got to talk about them. We got to feature
Yes.
them. We got to let people know so that the economy can pick them up, demand them, save electricity, save carbon footprint, be operationally more efficient, and move closer to net zero carbon, which is the goal that we all want to work towards.
Exactly. Speaking of sustainable, here it is. Your birthday gift to me. I still have it.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna start
Oh
using
yeah.
it now because I gained some weight, so it's gonna fit me now.
Good, 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 good.
I still have
What
it here.
should
I
that
wouldn't
that
have
was the
known
whole
about
idea.
this if not for you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so that's a godsend.
So
What else? You were
next
talking,
time, yeah,
yeah,
next time when you're on the show, you should wear it.
but I won't be able to show it to people though.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Walang
uh,
problema. Never mind, right? You can just talk about it and
yes, but you were talking
yeah,
about pallets,
yeah.
Matthias. You know, I have a small office where I do this recording, and my computer desk is actually made out of pallets, leftover
Wow,
wood from
beautiful,
pallets. So I put them all
beautiful.
together, and instead of paying 3,000 for a new computer table made of glass or whatnot, so
That's
yeah,
even better. Do it yourself,
do it
guys. If you
yourself.
can
Yeah.
have old stuff, old materials,
Mm-hmm.
and you can turn it into something beautiful, that's amazing. Let me open up my cupboard
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, it's down here. This is my pencil case. Does that look familiar?
Yes,
This is
pineapple
like
juice. Yeah.
a pineapple juice packaging. And nanai is the word here for grandma,
Mm-hmm.
basically turned it into a
Nice.
beautiful pencil case.
Yeah.
She basically dried it, cleaned it up, put a zip on it, and then you can have
Nice.
lovely stuff in there.
I
Like
remember a few years back they were, yeah,
bamboo
sustainable.
toothbrush
Yeah,
is
bamboo
in there.
toothbrush.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen that one before. That's awesome. In fact, like the local here in our country, the local Department of Trade, I believe, Department of Trade and Industry actually promoted the reusable bags. They're actually made out of the aluminum packaging of drinks, if you know what I mean by that. I've
Yeah.
seen this company in Bulacan that actually produces them. It's made out of plastic with an aluminum inner lining, so that
Yeah.
like the food is not gonna go to waste, whatever is being packaged inside. But the problem is it's unrecyclable. So what some people did, they created a cottage industry out of it, put them together, and created reusable bags. And this was like like 5 or 6 years ago, back in 2000 something, 2012, 13, 14, something like that. And I saw these in Batana, and we bought a couple of these. So there are so many opportunities out there to become sustainable, and one of them is that one that your nanay made for you. Very,
Yeah.
very
Grandma.
practical, very, very sensible. These,
But the story goes further.
yeah.
Nana only got inspired to do these kind of things after our christening party.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the Catholic Church in the Philippines.
Yeah.
When the kids get christened, it's quite a big thing. You make a party. And first christening party I attended, they served me the food on a plate with a plastic bag wrapped around it. I got the
Mm-hmm.
shock of my life. I thought,
Yeah.
what is this? They want me to eat the food from the plastic bag?
Yeah.
But this is the practice in some parts of the Philippines.
Yeah.
People just do that so they don't need to do the washing up afterwards. And I was so shocked.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I told my wife we're going to make it zero waste. And we made a zero waste christening party. We had a caterer. They weren't allowed to use any plastic. So Nana was inspired, and we planted 30 fruit trees on the same day. And
Wow.
that was the first time she planted a tree, even though she has land in the province. So that day was really the change catalyst for her to start planting trees, planting other things, and turning waste material into these kind of bags. But,
Yes.
with those bags, Victor, that you mentioned, I went to one such cottage factory as well.
Mm-mm.
And I got a little bit suspicious.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Because all of these bags looked like brand new.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
material, which was supposed to be waste material, was like, and I walked around there, and I
Yeah.
walked a bit
I think
further
I
to
know how. Yeah.
to the area where they were manufacturing them. And I saw the virgin material straight from the factory lying
Yes.
around there, being used to make those bags. So I
Yeah.
asked them, it looks like you're not using waste material anymore. Looks like you're getting the packaging material directly from the factory. And then they tried to explain it to me, saying, oh, these are misprints
Yes.
that we are using.
Yep.
Whether that's a truth or not, I don't know. But sometimes if, small volume or difficult volume of waste that is difficult to be turned into product gets used like that and becomes very successful, they don't have enough raw material anymore, or it's too much washing involved. So, the truth was maybe somewhere in the middle there. But
And
for example, one of my friends, Joey Green, he makes bags from recycled and discarded plastic. He makes small volume. I know it's the real deal. Those are the kind of bags I usually buy.
and that's a good point that you brought up, because me having worked in the plastic industry and having seen these factories uh in person, I would say that that's pretty accurate. Misprints are very common. They have their own huge printer over there, but sometimes, accidents do happen and they come up with misprints. At the same time, they do tend to produce much more than what is needed, because they cannot anticipate how many actually are going to be sold within the year, right? So what's happening is they are being contracted to produce much more than what is needed. So these are runoffs. Like, these are the surplus packaging that they come up with, and they just sell them for a very low margin. But regardless of whether these are overstocks of packaging materials, on the one hand, it's great that people are finding ways to make use of them instead of them going into landfills. But at the same time, it's not as great when you think that actual waste materials are still there, and they're not being used and converted into these types of products that are supposed to be it is supposed to be the idea behind it in the first place. So uh, choose your pill, basically. Like, both of them are on the one hand bad, but on the one hand good. So anyways, let's move on to business. Climate risk, investment risk, my friend. Let me just open up my questions here for you.
Hopefully you won't ask me too tough questions.
No, nothing you can't handle. Don't ask me. Don't ask me though. I don't think I can handle it. But anyways, like Matthias, so climate change is rapidly changing business. It is reshaping finance, shifting consumer behaviors, and making investors rethink where they put their money. So in this episode, we will take a quick peek at how climate change can become an investment risk for companies, manufacturers, producers, the whole lot, right? So number one, I guess, what we want to know is what is climate change and investment risk? What is the correlation behind that? What is the meaning of it? Can you
Yeah.
give? Yeah.
There are many different aspects to this risk that is linked to climate change, and as well changing behavior, changing policies, potential financial incentives or disincentives. In the past, governments have propped up the oil and gas industry because that was seen as a major sector, but that is not politically correct anymore. Because it is moving us further away from the climate targets that we need to achieve under the Paris Agreement, and that is the healthy path for the future of the planet, based on the scientific evidence that there's climate change. So we need to address that in terms of fiscal policies, in terms of economic policies, even, you know, going as far as in Canada now under the COVID rules, you know, there are new financial incentives for businesses that have been implemented, but these businesses, as part of the conditions for those grants, have to start reporting on their climate related initiatives, their risks, their achievements. So increasingly governments and investors want to see that on a voluntary basis, or are mandating that as part of certain financing requirements, certain reporting requirements. Here in the Philippines, we have seen in 2019, the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, has issued the document for sustainability reporting, the guidelines, and companies that don't report on it have to explain why they don't report on it. So it's not yet mandatory. It's not explicitly saying you have to do this or that on climate change, but climate change and your carbon footprint is part of the items that are listed in there that you should be reporting on if it is material for your sector. And materiality is based on how relevant, how much of it is a priority. So if you are a power plant owner and you're generating electricity, it's very, very relevant, because in a lot of countries, the governments are already putting policies in place that, which in the past favored oil, gas, and coal, the non-renewables. These policies are increasingly favoring the renewables, and the renewables have become so competitive in price that non-renewables are increasingly at risk of dinosaurs being dinosaurs or being stranded assets. And this is happening even in Germany. Just this January, Vattenfall, one of the biggest power producers who owns a couple of power plants, retired. I think it's a 1.5 gigawatt coal-fired power plant in Hamburg. That's only 5 years in operation. They are retiring it already because of the regulatory, the financial, and the society impact, pressure, or circumstances. They concluded we can't make money with this coal-fired power plant anymore. Just imagine that.
I know.
The thing is 5 years in operation and it's already closed down because the market conditions don't enable you to make money with it anymore. This is good. This is good because we shouldn't be able to make big money with coal-fired power plants because it's not good for the planet. So these are the changing circumstances. That's why it's a risk for you if you have a private or a publicly listed company and you have your shareholders, your investors to take care of, either those that are already on board or that want to come in. This is potentially a gigantic financial risk. There's a transition risk. Governments want and are making net zero carbon targets. If you have a business that generates gigantic carbon emissions, and those would be including businesses like cement. In countries in Europe, already governments are specifying that in the future, you cannot have a high percentage of cement content anymore for certain projects. That means people are shifting away from the high carbon footprint material. So you need to, and on that note, there is an amazing technology in the Philippines. Big
Yes.
Boss Cement in Pampanga. We might have mentioned that before.
Yes, we talked about that.
We should feature them.
Yeah.
Amazing low carbon cement technology. These will be the technologies of the future. I think 40, 50 years from now, the traditional cement kiln that burns limestone calcium carbonate will be out,
Mm-hmm.
because it will be a gigantic burden for your business to manufacture something that has a gigantic carbon footprint. So it's time to change. It's time to plan for the future. If you are a business that's in that business of high carbon footprint, you need to start looking at that as a gigantic transition policy and financial risk.
And just recently, we were talking about, for example, the state of New York, uh, major universities, major government agencies that are uh, uh, divesting from
Yes.
companies that they deemed are no longer sustainable. So if you happen to be working for a company that is, you know, either they're greenwashing, they're just not really sustainable, they're part of the oil industry, oil and coal, whatnot, like the cement, for example, you're at risk because a lot of your potential investors are now shifting away from that industry and looking to invest into more sustainable companies. And like you said, sunset industry. This is where they
Yes.
are now. That's where they're headed at this point, right? So
Yeah.
it's a major shift. You're right. It's a major shift. Very interesting.
And I mean, there is this very direct exposure risk in physical terms,
Hmm.
like what we've experienced here in the Philippines with Typhoon Haiyan,
Yeah.
or the other typhoons. If you are having a power plant close to sea level in some of those exposed areas,
Yes. Yes.
a typhoon can maybe significantly impact your operations,
Indeed.
and that typhoon is somewhat linked to the unpredictability of the climate, the increase of severe weather incidents. There's a lot of different aspects to that, and we have gone into that in a previous podcast.
Yes.
But basically, there's a risk to your physical asset, your physical infrastructure, with regards to the impact of climate change. And that's why insurance companies are so interested in this topic,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
because they are ultimately paying for those weather related incidents that are becoming more severe and unpredictable.
Indeed.
They want us to go back to lower carbon in the atmosphere, with the hope that that will get us back to a more balanced climate where we have less of those risks hitting us in terms of real incidents costing a lot of money.
And we don't even need to look so far. Like on on a daily basis, we eat food. One of the things that people don't realize is that we produce so much food that we are actually at a point where we're losing about 30% of what we produce each year worldwide. So for example, for example, like if we produce a certain amount of rice, right, for the whole year, expect that 30% of that is going to go to waste. And a major culprit, major reason why we lose these significant amount of food that should have been on our table is because of climate change. Changing weathers means there's a high possibility of typhoons coming in during the harvest season, and when that happens, there's a possibility of rice that are supposed to be harvested to just rot away because you have flooding and all this, right? So that's
I
just
mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
haven't we just seen this in the Philippines here now? My
Very
wife tells
common.
me, oh man,
Yeah.
the fruits, vegetables, everything is so expensive
Yes.
because some of the harvests have been impacted. So the prices have gone up
Indeed.
because it's a question of supply and
And
demand. So
demand. Yeah.
vegetables are already very expensive anyway in the Philippines. So then you have a couple of, we had, like what, 3 or 4 typhoons, one after the other.
I
It was
know.
ridiculous.
Does
It was
this
like,
at the end of the year?
yeah,
This has never happened. Like in my lifetime, I've never experienced something like that. Wherein the typhoons are coming in right before Christmas. We're just
one
lucky
after
that
the other. Yeah.
one after the other. We're just lucky that on Christmas Day was fair weather.
We have a good case study here in the Philippines. First Gen, the only major power producer that has committed to no coal, they basically had one of their power plants during Typhoon Haiyan basically knocked out. The typhoon made serious damage to it, and that woke them up and, gave them the first-hand experience. This stuff is serious. This stuff is material. It's knocked out one of our power plants. We need to look at the bigger picture and turn the risk into an opportunity. We don't want to contribute to high carbon intensity anymore. We want to contribute by shifting to largely renewables. So this has been their path based on that actual experience of having been physically hit by the typhoon. And then, in the future, the supply chain, people will even include carbon footprints in criteria that will be used to procure, particularly in the construction sector.
Yeah.
We have talked about net carbon zero for buildings in operation, but we're increasingly talking about net carbon zero for the building envelope. At the moment, that's difficult because people use a lot of steel, a lot of concrete, and those are two very high carbon footprint products.
Yes.
But in the future, people will be using more wood. They will be using more alternative pozzolanic, low cement concrete with minimum carbon footprint. So these things will all be changing and shifting. And if you are trying to sell a product at scale that has a high carbon footprint, you will most likely be sitting on your product or struggling, or you will have to significantly discount the price to find some people that will still want to pick it up. Because if they buy from you, they have to buy carbon credits somewhere else to compensate for the high carbon footprint that your product brings with it.
And will that affect, for example, like major companies? They have lobbyists in top government sectors, in Congress, for example. Would that also change, you think, their behavior? Because that's what's happening here. Big companies, they have people who lobby for them, influential people trying to get more influence in and trying to promote their products in. I think you have a good example of this wherein you were at an event where and you were asking these questions. Apparently the person you were asking was the president of one of the biggest cement factories in the world. So, any ideas, you think, how this culture of lobbying would potentially change how we,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
I think it has changed already. The big companies, like when I started Green Cement, Green Building Materials 15 years ago,
Mhm.
I co-founded a company in Germany that actually manufactures low carbon flooring and self-leveling products where we use blast furnace slag instead of cement,
Uh-huh,
largely.
uh-huh.
And when we started that, the cement industry was still in denial. They were like trying to keep it under the carpet. Or in Germany, Heidelberg Cement used to buy all of the blast furnace slag from ThyssenKrupp. Nobody could get their hands on it and do research with it. It was like top secret because it was seen as an alternative. So, these things have happened. But now the cement industry is realizing they got to play the game. Otherwise, the rug will be pulled under them. The story I think that you're referring to is when I was in Changsha in China. I think it was in 2006. I attended a United Nations Environmental Program event
Yeah, yeah.
on
I think that's the one.
construction sector and climate change, and that project, that committee was focusing on this industry and what can be done in the industry. And I was sitting there and I was scratching my head, literally like I'm doing now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was asking, hey, why is this document that you guys have come up with only focusing on buildings in operation?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why aren't we focusing on new construction projects and the building materials that we are using and the building materials that have a high carbon footprint? And the chairman wasn't very keen on my contributions. He was trying to every time I raised my hand to say something,
Right.
he was a man with not a very happy face.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then later on, I realized, hey, this guy is the CSR manager, corporate social responsibility.
Yeah.
Now we call it ESG, environmental social governance, but CSR manager for one of the largest international cement companies.
Yeah,
He
that
wasn't
that
interested on anyone focusing on the product itself. He
yeah.
wanted the focus to be only on buildings and operation. And that company in particular, I don't need to mention
No, no, no,
names,
no. Yeah, yeah.
they've had a pattern of turning up at conferences that were about climate change,
Mhm.
uh, emissions, innovation, building industry. They always used to talk about how can we reduce the carbon footprint of buildings in operation, which is not their core business. Their core business is to supply the building materials. So
Yes.
they were diverting people's attention
Indeed.
away to another focal area because they didn't want people to give attention to their carbon footprint.
Indeed.
But this has already changed. I mean, you cannot do it as blatantly anymore as they were doing it, 15 years ago, because people are talking about the carbon footprint. They're measuring the carbon footprint. There are tools now. There's a tool now that came out in the US, and I know Skanska, one of the Swedish construction companies, they're very, very proactive on environmental issues.
Mhm.
On a different event, I had them as one of my speakers in the town hall, and they have done a lot of work on this kind of subject, and they have co-sponsored a tool that is freely available on the web where you can actually use it to determine the carbon footprint of the building materials that you're using for your construction activity. So more and more focus is going in there. People are looking at the actual carbon footprint of the building materials. And that's why I think sustainable wood has a huge future, because
Mhm.
sustainable wood is a carbon sink. The forest, if it's planted sustainably, managed sustainably, has absorbed the CO2. Then you lock it into the wood. You use it as a building material that has another life cycle of 100, 200, or 300 years if you use it again and again. And this is as well, are the materials that we use recyclable at the end of its life cycle? We should think about that. And again, wood is easier to reuse at the end of its cycle than concrete or cement. I mean, steel as well. You can put it in a arc furnace, and you can actually,
We use it again. Right.
the raw material where
Yeah.
you use iron ore is a blast furnace,
Yeah.
but an electric arc furnace recycles the steel, the old
The
iron and
metals.
steel,
Yeah.
the metals, puts it in there, so it's lower carbon footprint because it's recycled.
We need to get
But the
yeah, we need to get somebody from that sector of the industry, that like the recyclable wood that we're talking about, and ask them about that innovation one of these days.
Yeah, maybe we should have a panel with a guy from the cement sector, with a guy from steel industry,
Well,
and somebody using wood, and talking
yeah, yeah.
about the building materials of the future, the innovations that are in the pipeline.
What's his name again? Babe. I forgot his name. The Dutch fella, the expert that we talked to a few nights
Oh yeah,
back.
Budawan. Yeah,
Buduan.
Budavin.
Yeah,
Budavin.
Buduan.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need
he's
to
very
get him
much
here.
clued up on the carbon footprint of
I
cement and
know.
concrete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be
And
amazing too. Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a transition risk for your business.
Mhm.
If all your assets are conventional cement plants that are running on high carbon technology, because you're burning limestone at 1500
Yeah.
Celsius and you're releasing the CO2 from the calcium carbonate, that is what limestone is,
Yes.
chemically speaking, that is unsustainable, you know, and your asset value from your shareholders might be considered your cement kilns. In
Mm-hmm.
50 years, those cement kilns will be obsolete, man.
Yep.
Get rid of them sooner or later and shift to alternative technologies. Otherwise, the big cement guys might be replaced by smaller, innovative guys with more innovative technology. Or cement will be replaced by bamboo. I
Yeah,
saw a
yeah.
video the other day from an American guy that set up a factory in Mindanao to process
Bamboo.
bamboo.
Yeah.
And in the future, his plan is to build skyscrapers from bamboo.
That would be
Can you
interesting.
imagine that?
Yeah. Well,
Skyscrapers from bamboo. Bamboo is amazing. It
yes,
absorbs so much carbon dioxide. It uses very little water. It regrows when you chop it.
indeed.
Perfect material.
And what is that? That movie a few back in the 2000s there was this movie, Jackie Chan and somebody else. Good cop, bad cop. I forgot what it's called. Anyways, like Jackie Chan would say, bamboo is stronger than steel. That's what he used to say. Maybe that kind of gave him an idea as well. But it's true. Like bamboo can be used for a lot of purposes. It's very sturdy, very strong material. So that's why I'm really interested. If he ever comes up with a building made out of bamboo, that would be a game changer to those who are, really into sustainability. And not only that, it breathes, and that's something that we need here, something that breathes.
Actually, you can Google. There is a very famous, iconic building in
Hmm.
Finland. It was on the front page of the Time magazine as one of the iconic buildings of the century.
Wow.
Lowry. It's an exhibition. It's a sauna. It's restaurants. It's all made from small diameter wood
Hmm.
that would have otherwise possibly be burnt in biomass plants,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is, controversial whether that is considered an eco-friendly, renewable way of power generation or not. But it's a low value use of those small diameter woods. And they used only those small diameter woods and turned them into high performance, durable wooden materials for the construction, and the building
Hmm.
looks beautiful. This is
Yeah.
as well going to be the future of construction, that more and more materials will come from wood. And one of the technologies that we can feature as well is the Finnish wood transformation technology. They
Hmm.
call it TMTM. It's basically a thermodynamic modification where you put it in a chamber, you control humidity, temperature, and you basically transform the wood from something that will rot, that will not be waterproof, that will not be usable for outdoors, into something that is high performance, long durability credentials, and you can even manipulate the surface hardness, and you can really turn it into all sorts of different end use applications that you cannot do with normal wood. So there's loads of great innovation technologies out there that will take care of this risk of climate change
Hmm.
by coming up with lower carbon products that are as good or better than the old material. I don't know whether you saw it, Victor, but last night I shared a video from one of the flooring products from Germany.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
And the beautiful thing that I'm so excited about is those products that are made from industrial waste material, like the
Hmm.
blast furnace slag, that are part of the circular economy, are better already than the
Then
products
the
made from
conventional
cement.
ones. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
cement cracks,
Yes.
cement has shrinkage, it expands, it contracts. Put some acid or salt water on cement, it corrodes.
Yes.
This material
Doesn't.
is corrosion resistant,
Wow.
salt water resistant until a certain pH, maybe pH 1, pH 2, but cement will already struggle with pH 4.
And that's the
That's why
thing.
we get, so much, just this one
Yeah. Yeah,
important
yeah, go ahead,
point.
go ahead. Yeah.
We get so much problems with bridges, with constructions, with roads, where you have salt and
Yep.
salt water in winter in Canada, where you used to
Yep.
live, right?
Yep.
You apply the salt in the winter, you
Indeed.
get the corrosion coming from the salt. And as well, if you have steel bars in there, the pH will start corroding it. So because the cement has the free calcium hydroxide in there, and you get a chemical reaction
Well,
with acids in there, I
Well,
won't go into more detail.
not
but
just in
these
Canada.
are not the problems that you have with this alternative technology. The alternative technology is far superior on those points as well, in addition to the low carbon footprint.
With regards to this. So, when it comes to these risks, who do you feel should take the most responsibility of taking the lead? Should it be, should it be the government, or is it the private sector out of their own, conscience to start, and take action when it comes to mitigating the effects of climate risks? Who do you think should be?
Both
of them
need to do it for the sake of the economy, for the sake of the business, for the sake of the country. If you look at the Philippines, the government has a climate change commission that has come up with NDCs, nationally determined contributions. That is how the government, plus additionally with legislation. The Philippine Senate declared climate emergency. So there is already a body of action, but how are you translating that into policies? High carbon footprint should be getting less incentives than low carbon footprint. That's what the government can do. The private sector is starting to include that into its criteria. Like I said, Ayala Land, Arfa Land, some other big developers are making this happen. Even SM, when they built their malls, they built their malls on an elevated level where they already plan in the risk of climate change. SM publicly has articulated that all the malls that they're building are slightly elevated in case we have sea level rise, so that they are prepared for it. So the private sector is starting to address this, and the private sector should do it even more. And I mean, even in my role as an advisor to the Philippine Stock Exchange, I hosted a round table in December on how to achieve climate neutrality. We had a great presentation from First Gen and from the Lopez Group and from Arfa Land on how they did it. Arfa Land came up with one of their buildings being the first building in the world to have the EDGE climate neutral in operation certification. I mean, even a developing country like the Philippines can show leadership in this, and this has given them a lot of visibility, media attention internationally. So both need to work together. Government plus private sector, whether you're a developed country or a developing country, it's the responsibility of all of us for the sake of our citizens, our countries, and our children.
Exactly. Good answers. Thank you very much, Matthias. And that's where we end our show to this week.
Great point, because my baby son just opened up the door and he's smiling at me with a big smile. He wants to play with me. So guys, get ready. That's it for today.
Thank you very much, Matthias.
And see you soon. Thanks.
We'll see you guys next week. And then don't forget, next week, we're going to be discussing the connection between the current pandemic and climate change. So that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Matthias,
cheers,
cheers, little guy. Bye-bye.